You got
All
the
right,
recording going?
we on.
Cool. We're going to go ahead and get started. First, we're going to go ahead and open up with prayer. Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the breath of life. We thank you for protecting each and every one of us that's on this call and all your children on this day. As we get prepared to think about, focus on the things that Sultan brought forth and how he had tried to get us all together, Lord, we actually keep our minds open, our hearts open, and give us courage, strength to move forward and do the things you called us to do. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Peace and
One of the
blessings.
things one of the things that I wanted to make sure we did focus on is, understanding what Sultan tried to do in getting us together to mentor to some of the younger people, as well as to ourselves, because there's a lot of things that, in his words, we've learned a lot of things that somebody could have taught us, especially if we had a mind to listen, that could have made our lives a little bit easier. And so we know trying to reach the youth or the younger generation, especially the black males, it's going to be a challenge with them necessarily listening to us, but we got to give them the information, give them what we know as far as how they can maneuver through the society and not get caught up and get trapped. So when Sultan kind of proposed that, I was really excited about that thought because it takes us away from just seeing kids in track or just in baseball or just in football, but trying to do something year round. And what it made me remember is the coaches that we had growing up, especially in Long Beach anyway, they didn't coach just one sport. So somehow we was dealing with these older men year round, and they was coming to our schools. We had coaches that would come to schools and check on us and our grades and everything else. So it's like we need to be doing the same thing. And that's kind of the sentiment that Sultan kind of put forth. So what I want to do is, one, let's kind of reflect, and I want each person to kind of give an short story, if you will, of what they, what Sultan did, or their relationship with Sultan. And then from there, we're going to move into, how do we not just keep his memory alive, but move forth with some of the goals that he had. So with that being said, Rigo, I'm going to give you the floor first.
Well, I want to let Brother James go. I go last.
You gonna let Brother James? I ain't gonna let Brother James go.
Okay,
Shit.
well,
I don't know. No,
I'll
no,
go
I'm
in.
good. I'm good.
Okay,
I'm
well,
good. I'm just
well, listen. I want to say a few words about my brother. You know, when Brother Sultan passed away, there wasn't any type of funeral arrangements for him that I knew about, or a celebration of life or funeral. So I always had it in my mind that I wanted the brothers to come together and do something to acknowledge his life, man, because the brother was very, very true to his buddies. And look, I got a chance to meet both of you guys, And as a matter of fact, we played ball together. That's how I met you. We all played on that one team, and
right.
and both of you brothers, steadfast with Sultan. I did, and man, he just to me was a beautiful human being. I was thinking to myself, I said, out of all the brothers I know, I never had any type of conflict with Sultan.
Yeah.
We didn't have any disagreements to the point where, it just it was a solid relationship. And we always pledged to stay in touch, and we did. He kept his word, I kept my word. And it just was a great relationship, man. And when he passed, I was definitely sad, but very good brother and somebody I could learn from and emulate, all his good ways. So yes, I agree with Rick. You know, we were the three that was with him when we met. So now, and and what program he wanted to start it. So I don't see a issue with continuing his legacy and his memory through a program that we can establish. So take my hat off to Brother Sultan, man.
Yeah, you're right. Sultan, like I kind of explained earlier, we met in the 10th grade. So I think it was an English class or something like that, or one, and we just start hooking up and, start kind of being, friends and doing things together. But my thing is with Sultan, he was always that person with me that I can always call and say, hey, Sultan, how you do this or what's going, because Sultan was always out there. I've been married for a long time, so I got lost, a little bit, doing the marriage thing. So I always needed Sultan to show me, hey, well, let me know what's going on out there or who's doing what, or even when everybody asks me a lot of times, I'll be drinking, some weird beers or something, and where you get that from? My buddy Sultan hit me up on, he was always that teacher that could, that would always teach and show you different things. And my thing about it, I'm an average cat. He grew up, Muslim school, very smart cat. And my thing is, I love it. I always say, I stay at the Holiday Inn Express. I hung around all the people, all the smart people, so that's how we kind of, hooked up, and that's how we became real good friends. And one thing about Sultan is he, like you said, he's honest, and sometimes to a fault, because regardless of, he's going to tell you, what's right and what's wrong, or what if you don't think it's right, he's going to tell you, and he's going to tell you to your face about him. That's what I liked about him. And like you said, Rico, I don't remember one time that me and Sultan got in any kind of argument or any kind of disagreement with anything. It was either he knew I knew, or he knew I knew. He would check to verify. It was no, sometimes you have relationships where people think they know everything and they go stand fast to hold their ground. He wasn't like that. He would, hey, I check, or he would check, I would check, but we always had a mutual agreement, but we never got into anything like that. So that's kind of things I appreciate about him and miss about him, because, now I can't, I was calling him, every week, we speak every week, about something. And I kind of miss that, so. But the thing about, I can't remember a lot about when we started it. Like I told Ricky, I couldn't even remember what we called it, but I do remember one of the mentors is actually a guy that's working for me right now. His name is Eric Sidney, and I guess Sultan at one of the Christmas parties kind of hollered at him and kind of started talking to him. And basically, he was going to be our first. He was going to be the first people, per se, because I guess Sultan talked to him and was speaking to him. And I guess during the conversation, the guy mentioned that his mentor or I don't know if he said mentor, I forgot how he put it, but a person he admired that was Tupac. So in other words, I don't think this guy had a dad in his life to help him, and so I know for a fact he was one of the first ones, but like you said, never jumped off. So we never got it started. So that's
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and finish it up. It's interesting because when you think about, I met Sultan through James, and that relationship is more than 40 years old. And so we went through high school, post high school. I mean, we went through a good quarter of our life where we grow, where we get understanding together. And as you guys both said, and it's kind of almost amazing, I never had any arguments with him. Not that we agreed on everything, but it was never nothing to where it was a confrontation of any sort. And at the same time, if there was ever a problem with somebody else, he always was there, always had the back. I mean, you knew Sultan and where he stood. I remember the pro-black era with Public Enemy and really getting to reading some books. like Carter G. Woodson and Chancellor Williams, Destruction of Black Civilization, and then going from that into, you know, businesses and the whole thought of how we really promote the Black community. I do realize that I think the Nation of Islam's teachings was in Sultan, and I think he projected that even with the thought of the mentoring program. But I will say this: when I got back with my four sons and we decided that they wanted to run track and we went out there, it was just like a wealth of knowledge opened up for me, not just with track, but just in the sense of how we can mentor to these children and how we can meet them where they are and take them to a new place. And Sultan was so good at that, whether it was getting these kids into Poly High School, whether it was getting them into different colleges. And Sultan seemed to be an individual who was comfortable in any environment, whether that was dealing with recruiters, teachers, knuckleheads, you take your pick, because Sultan had a array of friends, and it's just amazing, you know, whether it was Jimbo from the streets or whether it was individuals such as myself who went off to college and come back, and Sultan could fit in all those situations, and he always brought something. And so for me, it's like, it's tough because like James said, you know, there was times where I spoke to Sultan every day doing track. And then when it wasn't track, you know, I'm talking to him once a week. We got married in the same year, even though mine didn't last, but we got married in the same year. And it was a trip because it was like, we talked about that, like, you know, maybe we should be getting married because we getting old, you know what I'm saying? It was like a discussion. And so then, you know, when we do that, and of course, you know, he already had a son, but then I have all these sons, and you could see him just like mentoring them even when we first got back. And those are the kind of things that I think he stood for and he was about. And what I'm hoping to do is further that along. It's like with this pandemic, things that we normally would do that make it easy to reach out to you, they not available. You know, ain't no sports going on. You know, ain't no hanging out. All the things that we used to be able to do, I could go nowhere some youth that's because it's football practice, or we got basketball practice, or we got track practice, or there's a track meet. You know, through him, I had thought about doing a math mentor at the track meet, because you got kids there all day and they running but two events. And so the minute I get all set up with that, we got this pandemic. So my thing is, in honoring Sultan, it's kind of like trying to do what he started and keep it going. Because as James said, that one young man, not that not that they all don't have a father figure, because some of us who have father figures and grew up with father figures still was mentored, assisted, and coached by gentlemen who expose some things to us to allow us to be who we are. And so I think that that's kind of where I want to go with this, in the sense of how do we not just know that Sultan is here, I was part of our lives, but how do we really expose the world to the kind of attitude that he had about reaching these kids and getting them to a better place, you know, and uplifting them. So um, it's hard. I mean, it's hard when I think about him, because I'd be thinking, man, if Sultan was here, you know, this will be happening, or we be doing this, or, you know, and like James said, he introduced me to 1738. I ain't know nothing about no cognac, not that one. You know what I'm saying? And so, how do we continue this? Because, you know, that brother was one of the truest brothers that I know outside of my cousin James, in the sense of telling me like it is, supporting me, checking me, and not quote unquote trying to put me down, but really lifting me up through constructive criticism and straightening me out. So that's where I am. I just, it's kind of hard to believe that we left him in 2020, and trying to figure out how do we keep him with us for the rest of these years coming up.
Okay, I wanted to mention a few more things. I know Brother Sultan had a goddaughter that was on his track team, and that I think that was I had the chance to look at the interaction and how he stepped in where there was a void and was able to, you know, guide this young lady to college through the youth program. And that's just a testament of one of the ways he was so valuable, to our community, if we look at it through the track program. And then I wanted to say that you know, I'm I'm not a person that's like don't live in reality. I would say I like to keep it real. I'm not overly, I'm not into religion where people have a extended belief system in things that are not in touch with reality. I'm not that type of person, but I do know that there's things that are unseen. I mean, that's a reality. And so it was a trip. When he passed away, I was like, wow, we were supposed to hook up, you know, soon after he got out the hospital. Because I didn't even know he was in the hospital, and brother was in the hospital for a while during Christmas time a year ago. And I was like, what? Because we didn't talk for maybe, a few weeks, maybe almost a month or so. And we normally talk within a month. And I found out and I talked to him and he's like, yeah, man, I've been in the hospital. I was like, darn. But when he got out, we had plans of hooking up, but I found out he passed away. And then maybe a few weeks after that, 2 to 3 weeks, I had a clear cut dream and he was in it. And I was like, dang, man. I was like, oh, man, I'm glad to see you. And then then I woke up and I was like, dang, that was just like clear as day, and like I said, I'm not into, detached realities, so, there's maybe that was one of those instances, him coming to me in the unconscious to let me know, man, I'm cool, but I don't know. I don't know. So I just wanted to mention that about the brother. It was, real close and good personal friend.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to say that, man.
Well, and I guess for me, it's like trying to do something to be continuous. I think it's going to really be a challenge in this time. But um, I want us to think about it, and I want to try to do something where we could probably meet monthly and kind of outline some of the things that he put forth, and even include some of our own in the sense of how we can have a positive impact to some of these youth, because I think that Sandrea, the young lady he was talking about, I know um, um, she actually um, gained a lot from having him as a mentor and a coach and a father figure. And she knows that, and I know she was really devastated, when he passed. So with those thoughts, though, I just want us to really consider, contemplate, really reflect not on just our relationship with Sultan, but then how do we move forward? It looks like it's us three. If it's just us three, or how do we do things so that we can, you know, reach some of these youth, man, and try to make a difference? Because I think we all have children that's close to, if not already grown. But I think it's something about when it ain't your parents. You know what I'm saying? If it ain't your father telling you something, it seems like it's easier to accept. And I actually witnessed that with Sultan and my sons. I tell them the sky is blue, and they look at me like I don't know what I'm talking about. And Sultan come on and say, yeah, it's blue and got a couple of clouds, and now it's the truth. So I do think that there's something about mentoring, whether a person has a father in their life or not, that you can reach them. I remember one time James and I was coaching on the West Side in baseball, and we had a player who had an option of going to. He got drafted by the pro. He had a college looking at him, and one of those college, the coach went to a different school, so he had two different universities looking at him. And he came to James and I like, what should I do? Now, his mother and father was together in an influential part of his life, but as his coaches, he came to us. And those are the kind of things that I kind of want to be able to duplicate, you know, not that we want to take nobody's place, but a lot of times these youth are not as comfortable talking to their parents as they are talking to their mentors and their coaches.
It is going to be a difficult task to do until this pandemic is over, because we're not going to be around the kids to you know, to get them together. It's hard to. I don't know how you do it through this right here, trying to mentor somebody unless you already had somebody, you know, that you were already mentoring. So you're right. It's going to take us getting over this pandemic before we can maybe start doing something like that with some of these kids. And where do we, I guess we'll talk about that. Where do we start? Do we start, you know, real young? You know, when Sultan was doing it, we were, like I said, the guy that's at my job, he's only been there 5 years and he's 30 years old. He was around 25 years old, you know, trying to, you know, trying to speak to him. And like I said, Sultan would kind of do it during the Christmas parties. You know, they would always come over to the Christmas party. So he would always speak to him through that realm. So I'm just, you know, how do we, you know, where do we start, or how do we start about, you know, doing this?
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end the recording, and once I end the recording, I'll talk to you about a few things that I'm already doing.
Okay.
And so
Sounds good.
So Richard, any last words? You are
That'll
the
do it, man. You know what?
okay.
I appreciate you guys taking the time to come on, and even Rigo, even with the suggestion, because it's kind of the least we could do. And so, you know, we're going to try to make some things happen. And I think James brought out a good point. I think this pandemic is going to be a hurdle, but once that hurdle is removed, we should be able to really do some things. So, thank you guys for joining.
Thank you, and much love to Brother Sultan. Much love.